A very warm welcome to you from Equa Marketing. This presentation is brought to you by Equa.com, a leader in digital marketing.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Growing Dentist podcast. I'm so excited today because I have somebody I have a lot of respect for, Dr. Bill Blatchford. I first heard of Dr. Bill Blatchford through one of the clients I have a lot of respect for, Dr. Hatcher. He has been with us for several years, and I saw his business grow like crazy, and I was wondering what's the secret. So one day I was just talking to him, obviously we do his marketing, but, marketing is just one piece. I was talking to him and I was trying to ask him, what happened? Things are changing so rapidly and your business is doing really well and, what's going on? And you're always very happy and relaxed. So it's not just your business is going really well, but, you seem to be in a good place. So he mentioned your name, Dr. Blatchford, and I'm so glad you took the time to meet with us today.
Thank you, Naren. I'm excited to be here.
So why don't we start by talking a little bit about yourself? One of the things I've always heard, I went to your website and I talked to a few people since I heard of you, is that I heard that you have this famous phrase where you say life is short. Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us, why you believe life is short.
Well, that's a good story. I think it's a philosophy I came across early in life. I grew up on a dairy farm, and you work on a dairy farm 365 days a year, and I decided early on the better way to make a living, because it's not just about work, it's life. And I've always said that what I do for a living supports my life, not the other way around. And so I chose dentistry, and I've been absolutely blessed. I mean, dentistry is the greatest profession ever. I practiced in a small town 20 years. I developed a practice. By 1985, I was grossing $1 million as a solo dentist. That's not a lot today, but you understand in 1985, crowns were $300 a piece. And so, if you do the math on that, that's probably $3 million in today's numbers. And that was in a small town of about 40,000 people. We had 54 general dentists. And so it was, but I always had this philosophy that life was short and I'm going to live my life to the fullest. And, after the fourth year in practice, Naren, I started taking the entire month of August off. And we took our family, my wife and I, have been married 50 years this year. We have two daughters, Christina, who is a dentist and my partner in this business, and Tiffany, who lives here in Bend near us. And we'd go up on the San Juan Islands on a small sailboat for an entire month. Now, we've done that ever since. Actually, now my wife and I are able to spend 2 to 2.5 months on a boat in that area every summer. But here's the thing. We only go around on this planet once. And what I find is that most dentists, most people, work way too much, and they say that their free time and their family is important to them. But I'll tell you what I do. I watch what they do. And as a matter of fact, our mutual client, Stephen Hatcher, came up this morning, and as you know, and some of our clients would be, without talking about numbers, I will tell you that Steve was tremendously successful in his practice doing big numbers, and then a practice came up for sale near him, and he bought that and merged it, and it is absolutely an incredible thing right now. And Steve just got back from a week of skiing, and my wife and I were saying this morning, it's really great that our philosophy is so ingrained in Steve that even with all this going on, he's still able to take his wife and their daughter and go off and take a week off. And I believe Steve takes a week every sixth week, and he's working 4 days a week. His wife is also a pediatric dentist in a totally separate practice. But this is our philosophy, and as we were chatting before, part of this philosophy was reinforced for me. I started my business. I've been a private pilot for 50 years, and 44 years. I quit flying just a few years ago. I'm now 74 years old as of next Tuesday, and but I started my business of coaching doctors, and I would fly mainly in Western Canada every month, and I'd meet with little study clubs all over there, and then I did the West Coast. But one time it was the middle of the night, and I put a plane down upside down in a lake, and I got out of that, and I called my wife, and I said, I just had a lesson tonight. First off, everybody's fine. Everybody got out just fine. But I learned a lesson. Life is short. We need to play more. Well, that was a wake-up call, but about 6 months later, on a backcountry ski trip, I got buried in an avalanche, and I got dug out. Again, my wife was with me on that trip. She wasn't buried. But again, I said, somebody's telling me something, Naren. Somebody's telling me something. Life is short. Play hard. Play more. And so what I did, I've kind of made this a philosophy of my practice. But you see, you and I both belong to Dan Sullivan's program, Strategic Coach, and I give Dan a lot of credit for helping me with this paradigm. I always said that doctors can be more productive working less, and I actually did a research project on 60 doctors in Western Canada, and I kept track of diagnosis per day. Now, that's how much dentistry we present to patients. And, of course, I think all dentistry is optional, so it's all presented to treatment. Optional treatment, we present it to the patients, and by definition, we have to tell the patient how much the fee is or it doesn't count. I find a lot of dentists talk a lot about treatment, but the only question the patient has is how much does it cost? So you might as well cover that. So anyway, I kept track of this, and what I found was on these 62 doctors, we had a dramatic drop-off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, pretty good. Thursday, it's slowing down. Friday, they might as well go home because there was nothing going on. And then I kept track of weeks since a vacation, and there was a dramatic drop in diagnosis per day somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks. So I came up with this idea that every doctor should take a week off at least every 6 weeks. Now, working with Dan Sullivan shifted the paradigm for us when he said that, traditionally vacations were doled out as a reward for hard work. In other words, if you work here for 12 months, you'll get a week off, and if you work 2 years, you get 2 weeks off, and so on. We cap it out at about 3 weeks. And by the way, we will sit here in the office whether we're busy or not. And Dan changed that philosophy to vacations are preparation for being effective, and he proved it. And so I have used that combination of things, and I think of our clients, and yes, people like Dr. Hatcher, who's doing several $1 million a year. But I'm more proud of the fact that he and his wife, Sona, take time off with their little girl, and they take somewhere around 8 to 10 weeks a year of absolute free time where they travel, they do things together as a family. And that is going to mean more to their daughter than how much Steve and Sona leave her, because they will eventually leave her a lot of money, I'm sure. But the time they spent together as a family is far more valuable, and that's what I'm proud of. Last year I had several clients, individual clients, do over $2 million. As a matter of fact, out of my 200 clients, I have about 75 in that 1.6 and on up to several million. I had several in the 2 million range, in excess of 2 million, that worked under 110 days last year. In other words, they're in the office 110 days total. And one of my clients who takes a month off, takes January off every year, he lives in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so as you know, it's cold and snowy there in January. He's got 3 small children, so they're not in school, and he and his wife take a month off and go to Hawaii for a month. And he works 106 days a year, and he's in my Big Docs Club. And one of his quotes, Naren, is that if I'm not booked to goal every single day I work, I'm working too many days.
Right.
Because adding more days doesn't add more demand, it just adds more days. We just spread it out over a longer period of time. And so my philosophy is get in there, be productive, get out, and play.
Right. It's kind of interesting. So, yeah, I kept hearing this again and again when I was on your website and, listening to some of the people who had some videos on your website, and everybody kept talking about time first. It's interesting, it's just the opposite of. I know I'm a big fan of Dan because I'm one of his students, if you may, and so yeah, he kind of brainwashes you to kind of put time first. I'm still kind of struggling with that, to be honest. So how did you go about changing your mind, and how did you help your clients change your mind? Because I've heard some people on your website, they've only been with you for a year or two in some cases, but already they're taking 10 weeks off, 12 weeks off.
Yeah.
So
well, it's not something you have to grow into.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something you grow into. Now, how this all happened, I'll tell you, it goes back a few years. Growing up in a dairy farm, which you have no time off, it's all about work. The point of pride with our neighbors growing up, they were all dairy farmers, and point of pride was how hard they worked, how long hours they worked, how many years they went without missing a milking. You milk the cows twice a day, and they would talk about how many years they had gone without missing a milking, and that was a point of pride. It was like, how hard do I work? It was kind of how you grew up with that work ethic, and so I made the shift. And one of the reasons I shifted was I want to be a veterinarian, and because of I could see a different lifestyle that they had. And my veterinarian that worked with our farm kept encouraging me to be a dentist. And I talked to several dentists, and they encouraged me to be a dentist. And our own family dentist, he took August off every year. And he didn't really tell us that as patients. We didn't know that. But when I got talking about becoming a dentist, I found out that not only did he take August off every year, and he had a place up in the San Juan Islands in Washington where he went every year, and he also took most of January off and went down to Palm Springs and played golf. And I said, I could learn to live like that. He never told us that, you see. But, you see, if a dental patient doesn't know what your dentist is doing, as long as you're here the day I have an appointment, I'm fine. You can do whatever you want the rest of the time. And so he explained that to me, how he did that. And so the fourth year in practice, just by chance, we had a friend, a dentist, who decided to move to Alaska, and we were one night we were helping him pack the van, and we were all in our first or second year of practice. So in those days we did all that stuff ourselves, and if you moved to Alaska, you loaded up a van and drove to Alaska. And so we were helping, and we made the offhand comment that, well, we'll come see you next summer. Well, as the months went by, we kind of committed to that trip, and so we started putting some money away. We didn't put enough away, but we put some money away, and we stopped making appointments in August. And we took August, and we actually took 5 weeks, took first week of September as well, because we figured nobody does anything over Labor Day. We might as well just take 5 weeks, and so we did. And our daughter was 18 months old, and we spent 18 months, one of those great trips. And we came home, and we laugh about it now. The checking account was overdrawn. The appointment book was empty, and we survived. And we said, you know what? Again, going on something I learned later from Dan Sullivan, but I've learned this a long time ago, but the learning is always greater than the experience. And we learned we can do this again. And so we made a commitment, my wife and I, to each other, never to work in August. And I tell this to dentists, and they say, oh, how do you do that? And I say, well, first off, you don't make any appointments in August. And secondly, they say, well, what do you do about emergencies? And I say, well, you go to one of your friends and you say, I'm going to be gone the first week of August. Could you take a call for me? Sure, no problem. You take somebody else out to lunch and ask the same question, second week in August, third week, so forth. And then I joke about the fact, don't ever let those 4 people get together for lunch to know that you're gone for the whole month. And you see, you always have one team member in the office answering the phone. So you've got an oral surgeon, you've got an endodontist, you've got and one of these general dentists to take care of things, and the patients don't even know you're gone. Right. And they don't care. They really don't care. And if somebody calls, and when new people, as you know, and I know, and I verify what you do in marketing, new patients are the lifeblood of a practice. But the longest anybody would have to wait, if they call the first week for an appointment, certainly Dr. Blatchford would be happy to see you, and we can see you that first week in September. And for most people, that's just fine. And if so the longest anybody would wait would be 4 weeks, and as you see, as the month goes along, we can see them very quickly. So it makes no difference. And so we've done that. And what we found is that, well, for example, the doctor who took the month off and went to Hawaii this year, I just had a conversation with him a few days ago. And in the first week back, he broke $100,000 in the first week. He did over $250,000 in the 4 weeks following that month off. Now, you tell me, was that month off worth it?
Right.
See, he was fresh, rested, full of energy. And, by the way, here's something we do. We pay the team straight through. See, the team in most offices gets paid by the hour. And this is a huge. I was on a dental forum this morning talking about how to pay team, and think about this: if you pay your receptionist by the hour, what is that person's motivation to make more money? How does she make more money?
By working more hours.
By working more hours. And she is the person in charge of your schedule, doctor. So what does that mean for you? You will work more hours. You see, there are several things that we teach a lot of things in our program, but one of the things that we have found is in these doctors, when the staff is getting paid straight through, and the requirement is that when we work, everybody works, and the team also gets 6 or 8 weeks vacation. You see, paid vacation from day one, not after you've been here 10 years, and not if you've been here a year. From day one, you're entitled to 6 to 8 weeks vacation, but you only take it when I take mine, and one person is always here to answer the phone, because when that new patient calls or when our existing patient calls, I want the phone answered, and so they get it. And then you see the other thing that occurs when there's work to do. Let's say in hygiene program, somebody needs a crown or somebody needs something. We make every effort to do it today. And my mantra is, you're here, I'm here, let's get her done. Now, if the team is getting paid by the hour, you see there's no incentive for that because, well, let's put this patient off till next week, and that guarantees me work next week. And we change the culture of that practice. Everybody wants to be as productive today as possible. And you can do the math. If you take a practice doing 2 million and they're doing 120 days, they're doing some pretty big days. And almost every doctor I talk to has done a day that size, but they don't do them very often. Our thing is do it every day.
Right.
Do it every day. And so, to me, and when I look back, and I think, I'm probably the oldest person on this call. That's getting to be the way it is. But when I look back at my life, time and money, experiences or money, which is the most valuable?
Time or money or experience or money? I think time is more valuable and experience are more valuable because, when you die, you're not going to think of the money. You're going to think of, the time you spent.
Well, that's right. And I look at, one year, just a few years ago, our daughters have become our best friends. Our grandchildren are our life. We have 3 grandchildren, 2 6s and a 4-year-old. And we try to, our life revolve around them as much as possible. And as a matter of fact, Friday afternoon this week, I'm taking my 2 grandsons skiing. We're spending a whole day with our granddaughter on this weekend, and we started this skiing thing on my birthday as a family tradition. We started it 2 years ago, actually, when my older grandson was only 4 years old. And we live in a ski resort here in Oregon, so we ski a lot. And but we were up on our boat a few years ago with our younger daughter and her boys, and she said, we've been coming here for 20-some years. Now, the truth was it's 30-some years, but I just put forward that the time we spent as a family on that little sailboat that we had was probably way more valuable than the money I would have made in August.
Right.
As our financial planner has said, I'm going to be in the maximum tax bracket until I'm 92 years old if I stop working. So, in other words, we're going to leave some money to our kids to fight over is what it boils down to, although we've told them we're going to swallow our last dime and die. Perfect financial planning. But the thing is that I find that so many people are chasing that dollar. And, you and I were talking about houses and cars before we started this call. And I've always said as soon as I drive that new car off the dealership's lot, I'm driving a used car. Right. And within a week, it's just another used car. And I find so many people doing that. And, I'm no one to talk. I own a house here. I own a house in Mexico. I like material things too, but I've also recognized that money is really just something that gives me choices. It gives me choices because one of my early mentors was Rick Mercer, and he said, anything beyond half a bowl of rice a day is a luxury. And his evidence was half the world lives on half a bowl of rice a day. And anything beyond that is just a luxury. And so I say that time is more valuable. Time and experiences. And
right. And the other thing,
what else can I say?
Yeah.
Every dentist listening to this is going to make plenty of money.
Exactly.
And one of the keys there on the money is get out of debt as soon as possible. And I know that's swimming upstream a bit because your other advisors tell you, oh, don't worry, keep the debt, you can deduct the interest. But I have three questions.
Tell me why you believe that you should get out of debt. Like, what's your thinking behind it?
Well, here's my thinking. We started a pension plan early on in our career, and it's done well. But I will tell you this. As long as my wife and I had debt, we were still working for the man. Right. We still had this pressure over us that we've got a mortgage payment, we've got a practice payment, we've got a car payment. We've still, every month, we had obligations that we had to meet. And as long as you have those, you're not free.
Right.
And this goes against a lot of financial planners, and I do encourage people to read Tony Robbins' book on money, by the way. And I ask anybody, I tell my clients that paying off debt is the best investment you can make for savings, because here's the deal. Any potential investment, there are three questions to ask. One, I want an investment with absolutely no risk. Not low risk, zero risk. Well, paying off debt, there's no risk. I don't care what you invest in, as safe as anything is, there's always risk. There's always risk. I mean, the stock market goes up and down, real estate goes up and down, the bond market goes up and down, you name it. Gold goes up and down. Right. Paying off debt, there is no risk. Secondly, is there an absolute guaranteed rate of return? And number three, are there any fees or commissions coming out of this? And the only place that I know where I can put money, now, since I don't have any debt anymore, I can't do this, but when I had debt, I could put money into paying off debt that met all three of those criteria. And once I'm out of debt, I can amass a lot of money. Because you see, what we've been sold is that we'll start a pension plan or a savings plan while you still have debt. But I look at it this way. My true wealth is my net wealth. And if I don't care how much asset I have, if I have liabilities against it, it's the net of the two that's my true wealth. Right. And so regardless of where I put money into savings or I pay off debt, the net result is exactly the same. And so I really am big on when we help doctors increase their net income, and I think the last several years I haven't seen the numbers for 2017 yet, but we've been averaging over the last several years a little over $150,000 increase net for our clients in the first 14 months we work with them. Now, wow. Yeah, but what I do with that, Naren, I think is important, is I get them to say, okay, here's you got an extra $150,000. Uncle Sam wants about 50 of that. You can't do much about that. That's just the way it is. So you've got 100 left. What are you going to do with it? And the temptation is to go out and buy a new car, buy a bigger house, do something else, buy something. And I encourage them to really take a look at that and make a significant difference in their financial situation. And I talk to them about, why don't you take that $100,000 and dump it into principal, pay off debt. Right. And I literally have clients in their 30s totally out of debt. And when I say totally out of debt, I mean student debt paid off, mortgage on their practice paid off, and the big one, the mortgage on their house paid off. Right. And now, these people are financially free. And even if you can do that by age, whatever age it is, say 50, even, let's be more the mainstream. The ones that do it in their 30s are the outliers. But we've done it many times. And, right. For example, I have a client in Oregon who worked 106 days. That's what he's worked the last several years. He did $2.4 million last year. Net income over $1 million, and he's totally out of debt. Can you imagine how much money? And he's just just broke 40 years of age. Can you imagine how much money he and his wife will be able to save in the future?
Right. It's kind of funny because I believed in this idea of no debt. So my thinking is I don't buy anything for debt. Only thing I bought for debt was the house.
Yes.
Even when I buy a car, I buy a used car because you know what? It's 1/3 the price, and I can just pay cash.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And you're right. When you're not working for the man, you now can think freely. It's like there's no handcuffs.
We can talk cars, but I read Robert Kiyosaki's book years ago on the most popular car with the millionaire next door is the F-150 Ford pickup, and that's what I drive. So there you go. And it's 9 years old. And you know what? It does everything I want it to do. And sure, I could trade it. I could get a fancy new car. I could I've got a garage full of boats in there, so I can't put any cars in the garage. But the thing is this: is that all these things don't really mean that much to us, and I would rather take the time. I'd rather travel. You and I were talking. I've been a lot of places. This year, my wife and I we spent 6 weeks in Mexico, which is short for us. We're home here for a week, and then we're going to Argentina for 2 weeks. We're leaving next Wednesday. We come back from that. We're here for about a week, and we go on a bicycle trip on the East Coast from Wilmington, North Carolina to Savannah. We're riding with some of our clients. We've actually ridden across the United States that way a week at a time. We come back from that. We've got one seminar to do, and then my wife and I are doing a short history cruise, a World War II history cruise with David Eisenhower in Western Europe. We come home from that, and then we do some work, some seminars, some coaching. We get on our boat for 2 months and head for Alaska. In August, we come home for some little family time, and then we're going to do we're going to walk across England and back. That's just kind of how our year goes, and then it just keeps going like that. I mean, it's so I'd rather do that than buy stuff. I've got enough stuff now that what are you going to do with all this stuff? And we've done that for years. I mean, that's not an unusual year for us. I mean, that's kind of what we've always done. And someone told me a long time ago, and it was a man that at the time was probably at least as old as I am now, and a man I highly respected. And he had gone through some hard times, had come here to this country from Europe, where they had some very difficult times after World War II. And he said, there's one thing about travel and experiences. No one can take it away from you.
Right.
And I've always remembered that quote. No one can take the experiences away from you, but they can take things away from you. And
right.
If I go back to the half a bowl of rice a day, I guess.
Right.
I don't follow that. I don't follow it.
One of the sayings I kind of tell myself is, you come with nothing. You are born naked, and you die naked, right? I mean,
very good.
Nothing, so.
Yeah. You come in here broke, and you leave broke.
Exactly.
And, a couple of years ago, it's actually 5 years ago now, my younger brother, who is a farmer, has done extremely well. I mean, multi-millionaire. And he came down with colon cancer. And he's fine. He's 5-year survivor now, and he's doing fine. But I remember when he was going through it, he said to me one day, and he has, several thousand acres of irrigated farmland and equipment and money in the stock market and money in, here and there. Anyway, he said, I guess at this point in life, it doesn't matter how much money you have in the market, or how much money you have in the bank, or how much land you own, or how much grain you have in the silo. He said, what really matters now is family.
Right.
Unfortunately, he's a workaholic, and he got out of that mode very quickly after he was healthy again, and he's right back into accumulation.
Right.
But, it's amazing how when things happen, we see the world differently.
Speaking of, seeing the world differently, we talked about, changing the mind for the dentist, but how do you get your team aligned, with this different way of thinking? And you kind of hinted to it. You talked about, do you pay them for the working more hours, or you pay them for something else? So can you talk a little bit about how you get the team aligned And,
yeah, what we do is, first off, you've got a strong vision of the leader. I mean, that's where it starts. It starts with the leadership of the dentist, and you put together a team that wants the same things you want as badly as you want them, and one of those is the time. And now, but here's the biggest barrier here is that at the income level of team members, they can't afford to take all this time off if they're paid the traditional way. And the traditional way is they're paid by the hour. And so, as we mentioned, if your receptionist gets paid by the hour, her incentive is to have you work more hours. And so that goes counterproductive here. And so what we do is we put together, first off, we work out, and depending on, we work with the employment laws wherever you are, we have to work with that. And in most states and most provinces, you have to pay by the hour. But you can pay by the hour and pay a guaranteed pay per pay period. In other words, we pay for a 32 or a 40-hour work week, whether we work or not. Now, that takes the pressure off the team right there. In other words, they know that when the doctor takes a 2-week vacation, they can still put beans on the table, feed their kids.
Right.
Now, on top of that, we create a bonus system we call BAM. And one of my consultants, who, when I was practicing dentistry in my office, he and I developed this bonus system over several years of experimenting. We call it BAM, bare ass minimum. And the team basically, and I should mention this, virtually all of my clients operate team salaries, all fringe benefits, all that stuff at 20% of their gross. Now, the average is 30. But what that means is we teach very efficient systems. We don't need so many people, but we pay them extremely well. Now, they get 20%. We hit that BAM level, which is real simple. Take their salaries and benefits and multiply it by 5, and that's BAM. And the team gets 20% of anything over that. So it's a real simple system. The team knows the rules. It's transparent, and it really works. An office I spoke to yesterday, this is a single doctor, no associates, who takes a week off. Every 6 weeks, he takes a week off, travels a lot, and he has 4 team members. He has 3 operatories, 2 for him, 1 for hygiene, and in 2016, they collected $2.6 million. Now, his team, each team member, earned $36,000 last year in bonus money. Does he have a group of people committed to him?
Right.
You see, they've done a lot of marketing. By the way, his net is just almost 50%, not quite, but his net was past the 7-figure mark. But you see, and he's excited about how much his team made.
Right.
Now, he doesn't have team members watching the want ads for a dental assistant wanted. Another thing that I'm very proud of this particular doctor, Naren, is his best dental assistant ever just got accepted in dental school. And he's excited about it. Now, he comes from abundance. He does not come from scarcity. He's excited that he's losing his best dental assistant ever to dental school. And here's the fun part. This is the 4th dental assistant that's gone to dental school out of his office. Now, that, to me, that's a winner. I mean, that he has created a culture of growing his people. And when you can come from abundance and create a culture of growing your people, I don't care what business you're in, you've got a dynamite thing going.
Right.
And so the bonus system really is the answer to your question. How do you get the team involved? But you get them to see the bigger picture of what we're doing here. And if they see it as just a job, it's not going to work. And that particular doctor said something on the call yesterday. It was our conference call. He said, we did $2.6 million, and we didn't sell a single crown or a veneer or an implant. He said, we're changing lives. We're changing lives. Now,
right.
You see, he has been able to create this great vision of, he doesn't see himself as selling crowns or implants or veneers. He sees it, something bigger. And when you can get the team to buy into that passion, it's magic.
Right.
Just magic.
So let me kind of recap a couple of your key points. Number one is the way you think about time and really realizing that, time is a lot more important than money, and rewarding yourself with time before you worry about, making money, right?
Yeah.
Second thing is aligning your team with that philosophy. So they are not incentivized by working harder. They are also incentivized by working smarter.
Yeah.
So that's, kind of guaranteed pay, so to speak, along with, additional things. So if they go above and beyond, they share in the rewards. Correct?
It's incredible. If any of your listeners want to get a book, we have they can go to our website, Blatchford.com, /free book, and we will send them a book of several case studies of doctors doing exactly what we're talking about here, Naren. And if they want, they can call us at 866-495-7080. 866-495-7080, and we'll send them that book. It's case studies of people who are doing really well and doing about the things that you and I are talking about. I'd like to just talk a little bit, too. I don't know if it really came out, but I'd like to put a plug in for marketing, too, because, I have studied over 3,000 practices, and I always have the doctors differentiate their top 20% of their patients, which provide them with 80% of their income. And one of the things that we have found is the majority of those patients are new patients when they come in. So new patients are the lifeblood of a practice. And so if there's anybody listening to this that's wondering why they need to market, there's your reason.
Thank you, Doctor. Yes, we are pretty happy with our, business where 90% of our clients continue with us year after year, and, they understand the power of marketing, right, which is about growing confidence. So that's kind of what we focus on. Let me, I know you have to go, so perhaps we could do a part 2 at some point, and,
Sure. I'd love to do that.
That'll be awesome, Doctor. Thank you very much. So once again, for everybody, go to Blatchford.com/free book. And I'm actually on that page right now, so you can see, a lot of case studies, videos, and plus you get that free book. I understand they also get a CD. Is that correct?
Right. We give them a CD of the audio version of that. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Naren, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time to spend some time with your clients, and let's do this again.
Thank you, Doctor. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.
Thank you. Okay.